Welcome to Sapphire Ridge News. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you're watching on replay, put a team replay in the comment. Thank you. This is quite interesting. The CIA has been suspected for decades of being the ones responsible. Hey, Julianne, welcome. So interesting thing come out in the JFK records that were released yesterday. Um, for decades, many of us have suspicion that the CIA is the one that did it. Well, something interesting happened like a few days after uh, the event happened, and I'm going to go over it. There's a agent that worked for the CIA named uh, Garrett Underhill. He went by Gary Underhill Junior. And the weekend after uh, the JFK event happened, he was seen going going into a friend's house in a panic, and he told them the CIA did it. There's a small group inside the CIA that runs guns, drugs, and whatever else they can to pay for their operations. Yeah, John Garrett Underhill. He went by Gary Underhill Jr. And he told his friends that he was in fear for his life and that he may have to leave the country to stay alive. 6 months later, he was found dead in his DC apartment, and the coroner ruled it a suicide. There are huge problems behind that. Okay, he was shot in the left ear, left side of the head, behind the left ear, with the gun pointed upwards into his skull. Okay, so that's one issue. The second issue is he is right-handed, and he was found with the weapon near his left hand. Okay, so I don't care what kind of a contortionist you are, you cannot put a gun in your right hand and twist it around this way and then point up into your skull and upwards with your right hand. Okay, and then he's not left-handed, so he's not going to take the gun in this hand and point it behind his ear and up and twist it around. Right. That's the exact same thing that they said on this young man, because it's all too coincidental that he went to his friends all in a panic that his life was in danger and told them that the CIA did it, told them there's a small group within the CIA that runs drugs, um, guns, and just whatever else they can do to pay for their operations. So while everybody was talking about that, another document came out. Okay, and this is more damning towards the CIA. Okay, the the Carcano rifle that Lee Harvey Oswald used, that came from a gun store in Chicago. They have the memo telling a particular agent to get in hold of the owner of this gun store and to supply it. Well, it makes a leap, but it says this is the same gun store that Oswald bought the Carcano rifle from, and it's telling their, I would call him an agent, to get in hold of this guy and make sure he has a Carcano available. Right. And something else that come out was that Kennedy found out about all this stuff going on at the CIA and was getting ready to come down on them. And they unalived him before he could change them. At least that's the way I come across with it. I watch Lou Valenti, LB Nation, every once in a while. And he's going through the papers, and all of this stuff is coming out, and he's talking about this is going on here, that's going on there. Talked about uh, Garrett supposedly committing suicide, but he glossed over all of the issues that I just raised about it. That he's right-handed. He was a uh, small arms expert in the military. So that's all interesting stuff. There's 80,000 pages of documents, and then I heard on the Benny show, I think it was a few minutes ago, that there are about 10,000 more documents, but they're going through a process to get them declassified. And something else that came up, there's so many government agencies involved in this. Like the one memo said that the day after um, the Kennedy event happened, that the ambassador from Chile, who was in Chile, got a call related to Kennedy. Okay, Australia sent in a memo requesting that the information not ever be released, that there was a man in Australia that was connected, but they were unable to find him, so they don't want people to know. It's like, what the hell? You would want people to know so that they can be aware, hey, this guy's up to no good. Am I right? I just find all this stuff fascinating. All this BS that we knew, kind of knew, was going on, like the the single shooter theory. Well, when I went to Dealey Plaza, this was in the middle '90s, and I looked at the school book depository. Underneath the window of the school book depository is a huge ass oak tree where the top of the canopy starts at the window below where Oswald was, and it stretches out 80 to 100 feet each direction. So he would have had to shoot through that oak tree to make his hits. And now they're saying they only found one bullet from the Carcano. Right. The doc, I watched I think it's on the History Channel, might be National Geographic, but I watched it through their YouTube page. The doctor that examined Kennedy at the hospital, at Parkland Hospital, said the wound in the neck was an entrance wound, and that he said he was forced to change it to an exit wound. But he said no, that was an entrance wound. He said the bullet went in his neck right here and hit some piece of bone and went up and went out the top of his head. And that whole theory that it was all one bullet, that's all a bunch of BS. Because, okay, once a bullet hits something, like say this is a bone, the bullet hits it, it not only slows the bullet down, but it changes its direction either up or down, depending on how it hit the bone and how the bone fragmented, I guess would be the right word. And so, no, that's what I'm trying to say. There had to be more than one shooter because they wanted to make sure that he was unalive. And that one of the things that came out in the papers yesterday was that Oswald was a patsy, that Oswald was recorded in Russia. His handler said that Oswald was a terrible shot and that he was very belligerent and argumentative, and he said he tried to teach him how to be a better shot, and he said he was basically told, mind your own business. He doesn't say exactly what he was told, you know what I mean? Just dances around the subject. And then the Cuba connection is interesting. So Oswald was reported to be the head of this front group in Cuba. Okay, I mentioned the ambassador from Chile getting a phone call. He was got a phone call from the front group that Oswald was in, and when he asked about Oswald, he was told, "Don't worry about him. He's just a patsy." And they said, "Well, how are you going to shut him up?" He said, "He will have an accident." So that tells me this was all a plan. Wasn't a very well executed plan, but it ended up, with what they thought they wanted to do getting done. When you see all these pages and pages of memos and stuff, it's like, okay, so they really weren't very good at their job. You know what I mean? Because if they wanted to hide it, they wouldn't send a memo telling what they were going to do. At least you wouldn't think they would, right? JFK used to ride in a convertible all the time. He didn't want, they had they called it a bubble that they put over the top of it, but he didn't want that on there because he said it restricts his interaction with the people. Right. And that's how we got to our modern limousine, which is all bulletproof glass, uh, run flat tires, uh, bulletproofing around the engine. They said it's called the Beast because it can drive over a bomb that goes off and keep driving. Yeah, it changed security forever. Right. oh, they're going to um, impeach that judge, Judge Bossberg. Um, the way I understand it is Trump said 3 to 6 weeks on the Epstein files because the victims have to be protected. And he said there's 250 young girls that were his victims. And he said we do not want them to be doubly victimized by their name getting out there if they don't want it out there. Right, but you know, Roberts said that that impeaching a federal judge is not the proper remedy. Just let the courts take care of it. Wrong. The Constitution clearly defines in Article 3 that a judge, a federal judge, can be impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors. Then in the third paragraph, he says, or they can be fired for not having good conduct in their work. I think we ought to start the impeachment process, and even if the Senate doesn't vote to remove, it sends a message to these other activist judges, hey, if you become an activist in the court, we will pull you in and we will show the country what you've been doing. And you will forever have the red letter I behind your name. Right. Yeah, yesterday afternoon rather, they were at 27% and falling. And I kind of chuckled. They said, "Well, we need younger blood in Congress. Let's let Jasmine Crockett run for president." I died laughing. Said, "Yeah, that'll be the end of your party." She just spouts radical off the wall BS. Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah. Well, the latest thing as of yesterday is that AOC was going to challenge um, Chuck Schumer in 26. That was the latest I heard yesterday. And Schumer, he's such a has been. He went on the View yesterday and was defending him caving to the Republicans. And he told the ladies of the View Okay, you're in a bad situation facing a worse situation. The bad situation is something is nibbling off the end of your fingers. The worst situation is it's going to cut your arm off. Do you want to keep your arm and mend your fingers, or do you want to sacrifice your arm? I thought, what the hell? Because that's just gibberish. You know what I mean? You don't go on something like The View and tell them I had a choice of losing the end of my fingers or losing my whole arm. So I chose to keep my fingers and let them heal. Like, what kind of BS is that? Yeah. And Hakeem Jeffries, I think, is on his way out too. Yeah, Hakeem Jeffries is from New York, right? Isn't he from Harlem area? He's so he's so hateful. Oh, that's great, Zach. Glad that your cat is going to be okay now. But it's just okay. So Hakeem Jeffries, if he had any common sense at all or ability to speak, I'll put it that way, when the reporter asked him the question that he didn't want to answer, he should have said, "We're not going to comment on that right now." Instead, he looked at the reporter and said, "Next question," and turned away from the reporter. And then the next reporter asked the same question, and he snapped and said, "I said next question." Yeah, he passed on all the hard questions, which is kind of ridiculous, right? I'm downloading an update to my streaming software that gives me more fonts for the banner, and I'll be able to adjust the size of the font. That'll be a lot better for us. Yeah, I used to get pain injections in my spine. That's a pain. I used to get 12 on each side of the, the lumbar, from the lower lumbar up to the base of the, the chest, where the chest ribs meet the back. I meant they do 12 on one side, 12 on the other. That was brutal. I'm not afraid of needles or anything, but the needles are like this long and they're flexible, and it's like, yeah, no, we're not doing this again. Yeah, yeah, I believe it was considered a caudal because the the needle would go in. They had to use a fluoroscope, and the needle had to go in between the facet joints of the spine so that it could put the pain medicine on one side of the facet, and they had to do all of the facets on one side and then all of them on the other side. Yeah, mine gave me plenty. I had no pain for 6 weeks. And in the middle of the night, it just boom wore off. I couldn't move my legs. I couldn't twist my spine. No, we are not doing this shit again. Hell no. Yeah, I have arthritis of the spine, and my surgery that I had done in October was uh, they called it corrective restorative surgery. So they took out the disc from C4 to C7, and they rebuilt that whole section of the neck with titanium plates and screws, and they said it'll be in there forever. But the surgery was actually a success because before the surgery, I had real bad tremors in both hands like this. Within an hour, gone. My left hand, I could hardly pick anything up with my left hand. And if I had like keys or something in my left hand and moved my left arm, my hand would just automatically open and whatever was in my hand would hit the floor. Within an hour after surgery, that was all gone. So I'll take that for a win because I dealt with that for 10 years. And they wanted to do this in Florida, and I would not let him because the surgeon refused to explain what he was going to do. And I told him, fuck you, get away from me. You ain't touching my neck if you can't fucking explain what you're going to do. Yeah, I have arthritis of the spine. And see, arthritis of the spine usually only affects the facets, the edges. It's called facetal arthritis. But my neck, it had pushed the vertebrae at C6 out of place, and it was putting pressure on the nerve that controlled my left arm and also affected, like I said, tremors in my right arm and hand. And by them doing the restorative surgery, they were able to take that pressure off of that nerve, put the vertebrae back in place where it belonged, but had to, put plates and screws to hold it in place. And because of having that surgery, I will be permanently on a 15-pound weight restriction. So anything heavier than 15 pounds, I have to have my aide bring it in, which I like when they come early because then everything gets done and I can come online and talk to you guys and not worry about, hey, is the aide going to be pounding at the door, which is right next to, well, almost right next, like 20 feet from my iPad that I use to talk to you guys with. Yeah, they want to do surgery on my lumbar next. Yeah, I've lost quite a bit of weight. Um, I'm down to, I think she said 234, 234 or 236. 34, because I told her, well, at least it's not 243 or 245. You know, my aides are really good. Had issues with one of them. She was a little tattletale. And the issue I had with her was the other aide did all the work. She was a good worker. That girl worked her ass off. And the other girl went and told the boss that she just sat around and didn't do nothing and took pictures of her sitting down when she first came in to see what I needed done and used that as proof that she didn't do anything. That's evil. Right. You're right on that, Zach, because he said because they put plates and screws to hold the plate in place, anything over 15 pounds that I lift has the chance of pulling the screws out. And I do not want that because I went from pain level of 9 or 10 or higher every day, all day long, to zero. My pain right now is zero in my neck. So I will take that as a win. Well, when you're faced with losing the use, I was facing completely losing the use of my left arm. Yeah, with back injuries, doesn't matter what you weigh. They should not use that as a quote reason to not do your surgery or whatever. That you're right on. Height and weight charts are not for Americans because the height and weight charts were developed for, I believe it was the Asians first. I can't remember what country over there had the first height and weight chart. Well, it's not always willpower. Um, Bobby Kennedy went over this at his hearing. He said, currently, well, it's not no longer, but previously, the FDA was allowing food companies to put products in canned foods to make people want to eat more. Yeah, that's like, my sister was president of a credit union, and she had to do a conference in Portland, Oregon. And my sister is not obese or overweight. She wears a size 12 to 14. She flew out to Portland. The airline lost her luggage. So she had to go into one of the local stores to buy business clothes. The sizes on their shelf were size 0, size 1, and size 2. They didn't carry any other sizes in the store. Yeah, they use the Chinese use MSG as a appetite suppressant. Right. 12 to 14 is an average, quote, average size for a woman. That used to be, back in the day, they used to call it 34, 24, 34, which now they want you to be a beanpole. Right. I agree with that, Julianne. Foods are fake, okay? I go on this rant with friends all the time. There is no reason that red dye needs to be added to foods. And the reason why I say that is my daughter is allergic to red dye. Just touching a pill with red dye in it, and she breaks out in hives. She's a phlebotomist at a hospital, and there's some type of dye in the gloves that they have to wear that her hands break out in hives. So she told her boss that she's going to have to order her own gloves and that she will just eat the cost because she can't be drawing people's blood and wanting to itch her fingers off. Right, latex. They have to wear latex gloves. She's not allergic to the latex. She's allergic to the dye in the latex. So if it's not a clear glove, she can't wear it because she's allergic to the dye. I would say not very many American women could wear a size small. Yeah, and see, Bobby Kennedy brought up something else. He said the same products that are being sold here, if you buy the exact same product in Canada or anywhere in Europe, it has four ingredients. He said, why do we allow them to get away with 32 for the same product? Yeah, my daughter is wanting to take her girls and go see the new Snow White, and I told her, you're not going to like it. So you didn't like The Martian? Thought it was boring? I can see that. I like Matt Damon too. He's a good actor. Very good actor. Yeah, I have not seen The Ides of March in a very long time. So I have to figure. I got to update the thing that tells me who's watching because I can now set it up to do lives on Amazon. There's so much interesting stuff. That's a lot of kids, Julianne. 16 separate births. My friend, well, I should say previous friend, him and his wife had 6 sets of twins. She went to the same doctor, and the same nurse delivered all of her kids. When she was delivering her third set of twins, the the nurse said, "So I see that fertility is really working for you." She didn't do any fertility. Hyperovulation. Yep. Wow. I didn't know they allowed multiple wives in Uganda still. I know they used to back years ago. Now that's a job. 44 kids by age 38. That's great, Julianne, that she can take this and turn it around and make sure that her kids get an education. But on this stuff, on JFK, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You know, I'm going to have to do a series of these and wait, you know, several days in between. I might go once a week because the volume You know, it's 80,000 documents were released. That's not pages, that's 80,000 documents. Some documents are one page, but others are three, four, five, and 6 pages. Wow. Stepmom should be unalived or in jail or something. Glad she's good now. No child support, huh? All right, we've been going for an hour now, so I'm going to get off of here and I will see you guys tomorrow at the same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, and we'll get into a happier subject. I'll look for something happy for us to get into. Wow. Bye, y'all. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. That's what I will look up. I will find out when they're going because I have lots of information on Fort Knox. Why don't we do a Fort Knox stream tomorrow on not really the history, but how it ended up being Fort Knox and all of that stuff because it's a really interesting story and background which has connection with my mom's side of the family. Yeah, there. Well, we'll talk about this tomorrow. All right. See you guys tomorrow. Love you guys. Bye for now.